So as you probably know that this whole week at the Western Cape High Court, so many parties were debating over the Expropriation Act. In this video, I'm going to show you a heated exchange between the judge and the Minister of Public Works lawyer. And if you stay with me all the way till my biblical reaction, I think you're going to have a video that's going to be your go-to video when this topic comes up, because everybody needs to get this, because South Africa will prosper. You ready? Okay, press like, let's go. So let's start on the 23rd of January 2025, when President Ramaphosa signs the expropriation bill into law without telling his partners in the government of national unity. This is how some people felt about that move.
But it seems to me that it might well be problematic for the president to sign a bill into law when it was passed by the previous parliament and not the current parliament. I'm sure the argument would go, we can't just stop the process, we need to continue, it was passed, everything is legal. Fine. I don't know if it is moral to sign something into law that was passed by a parliament elected in 2019 when you've had an election since then. To put it another way, do you think the Expropriation Act would become law if it went through the current parliament that was elected in 2024? I mean, that would be one of the tests. Now, I imagine there can be all sorts of arguments about this. I'm sure someone will come with some sort of technical discussion. I just think it's kind of standing on the border or on the line of, undemocratic practice to do that. I think that really is, for me, the difficulty. I think that's really what you've got to be a little bit nervous about. I think that for me is really one of the issues here. It also means that, you don't really know exactly what you're dealing with. You would think that if you're an investor and you're making decisions based on the outcome of an election, well, then you kind of know. But instead, you're making decisions based on the outcome of the 2019 election. As I say, there might well be some kind of defense for this, but I do think it just leads to problems.
I think that's very well put. And so the Public Works Minister didn't take kindly to this, because also Ramaphosa signed that law after getting a letter probably telling him that 19234 make no sense, but Ramaphosa signed it in secret. And so Dean Macpherson took to Twitter as soon as he found out it was signed, and he said, as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, there will be no expropriation of private property without compensation, not on my watch. The guarantee of property rights under Section 25 of the Constitution is not up for debate and is non-negotiable. And Ramaphosa's praise singer, Gayton McKenzie, said, Ramaphosa stabbed us in the back. And many of the partners in the GNU were not happy. And so in February 2025, Helen Ziller,
I've just completed commissioning court papers to challenge the Expropriation Act in court. The DA is fundamentally opposed to the Act in principle, and we have been since 2018. Because of the fact that it opens the door to power abuse in taking people's property away without compensation in an open-ended way, which is entirely contrary to what we believe the principles of the Constitution are, and certainly opposed to the DA's policies and principles.
And so this is what she was signing in the matter between the Democratic Alliance, Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, President of the Republic, Chairperson of the NCOP, Togo Didiza of the National Assembly, and all the speakers of all 9 province legislatures. The applicant submits that the Expropriation Act is unconstitutional for the following reasons. The first one is that 5 of the 7 provincial legislators that voted in favor of the act in the NCOP did so in terms of final mandates that were unlawful and unconstitutional. So I think what it sounds like they're saying happened is that at the province level, the speakers sidelined the DA to force the signature through without a proper vote. Number 2, Section 19(2) and 3 of the Act is irrational, and that irrationality renders the entire Act inoperable. So the word irrational in law means it's out of its mind. It makes no sense. It's nonsense. And it is. If you see my post right here, you'll see why it is. And so on the 6th of February, the fight was on. So while the DA application is there, a couple of organizations go in separate ways. And so the order was all of these applications come together under one tent. Let's hear it together. And so this is what the case pretty much looked like with the big names. You have the DA challenging the act. You have AfriForum challenging the act. You have the over a century old Institute for Race Relations Legal also in there. You have the Vaderland Stigting in there. You have the Free Market Foundation Rule of Law Project also as an amicus. All of them saying no ways and bringing different arguments all together. And those who are saying no, let the act go on. Obviously the president, because they were served, parliament, because they were served, the provinces, because they were served, the EFF jumped on and said, I am supporting this act. The Association for Rural Advancement said, we need this act to get through to make things happen. The Emperor of Batembu II, Votani Majola, also said, I need to say my 2 cents worth as well to help the court, and many others. Now, what about the department that actually has to execute the act? Did they challenge it or did they support it? No. He lodged a notice. I'll go with whatever you say. In legal terms, it's a notice to abide that went together with an explanatory affidavit, which means it doesn't fight, it doesn't support, it kind of says, well, I'm here, I'm doing enough not to get fired, but I'm doing enough to remind Ramaphosa that he does not have the same authority that Mandela, Mbeki, Motlanthe, Zuma, or Ramaphosa first term had. And this led to a very interesting back and forth between his advocate, Katz, and the judge.
In my affidavit, my client's affidavit, he does say he's here to answer any questions the court might ask at some particular point. If they ask no questions, I'd be only too happy. So I'm here. That's why I'm here.
So many questions have been asked in the paper.
Yes, they'll be from the court. If the court have any questions, the court might ask me for legal submission, etc., etc. That's up to the court. The court might require me to file something, then he'll have to file something. That's up to the court. He believes that he's done his duty. If the court feels that there's more that's required, then my client has given me instructions to certainly assist the court in whichever way he can.
He's a member of the executive. He's firmly involved in this act and the eventual application of it. And if he doesn't want to express a view on the merits, which I suspect may not be necessarily a legal decision, it might be a political decision, that we have to respect.
Unless I'm asked to do so at whatever point the court decides to ask me. And if the court chooses to do so at a particular point, I'll do my best to answer at that point or at some future point. But there will be certainly no unfairness to any of those who have not yet argued.
My sense is that your client has taken a political decision.
No, with respect.
And hold on, and he's welcome to do that. But there's also a legal issue that arises in this matter, which any court would have appreciated the assistance of the minister on the legal issues. But it's his choice.
I'm here on behalf of the minister to answer any question on the legal issue that arises. Factually, he's not in a position to answer for whatever reason. That would be unfair to the court and to both the applicants and the respondents. But legally, And that's what, with respect, the cases, Darwood, the very first case, there the court criticised the respective minister for not being in that position. And he says in his affidavit, I'm here for Darwood reasons. That's what he says. I'm putting counsel before the court, here I am, with a particular legal issue, any legal issue.
If he's taken a political decision not to enter the legal debate, that's his choice.
He makes it clear that he's here to assist the court in whatever way he can. If he made a political decision, then he wouldn't have made that offer.
Yeah.
That's my submission.
Practically?
Excuse me?
What does it mean practically? He's available. What does it mean? I'm asking you practically, what does it mean when your client says he's available? Because he hasn't filed papers. So what must we do? Are you going to file an affidavit and then we must postpone the proceedings so that everyone else can reply to that?
The only affidavit that I would even suggest that he files is this question of consent to jurisdiction. Nothing more, obviously. Factually, there might be other issues. But
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
on the question of jurisdiction.
No, the last thing you just said, factually, there might be other things.
No, he can't file, no, he can't do that. He's not entitled to do that. No, that would be unfair to the court and to everybody else. I accept that. But legally, you don't need to file an affidavit to make legal contentions on any issue.
What's your client's legal position? What assistance does your client want to give to this court with regard to the interpretation of this legislation, which is the subject of litigation? What is it?
Can I give you an example of something I might say?
It's a short answer.
A short example, let's assume the court takes the view that Section 19 is unconstitutional for whatever reason.
Yes.
And the court says to me, well, you heard from Ms. Pillay, you know what the respondents say about the question of just and equal remedy 172(1)(b). What does my client say about it? That's what you could ask me legitimately, I think. I'll give you one answer, in the legal answer. This court is bound by what he said in paragraph 2 of Prince 3. It's a legal answer. There's no factual involvement. You might take the view that I'm wrong in that submission.
What is your client's position on the legal issues that arises with regard to interpretation?
Yes.
Has your client formulated a view on that? Has he given you an instruction to argue what are the legal positions he adopts on the issues?
If you want me to tell you when Mr. Oppenheim is finished tomorrow morning, I'll certainly will.
No, but if you say, if you even begin, then Mr. Manechi says,
Yes.
put it in an affidavit so we can respond to it.
Well,
You see, Mr. Ketz, the client can't ride on two horses here.
I accept that.
He can't.
I accept it.
And because he may have taken a political decision not to get involved in the fray for whatever reasons, in this court, he's a member of the executive
I accept
who's
it.
going to be responsible for the implementation of this act. At the very least, this court would have wanted him to assist the court as the executive authority on the legal issues.
I accept
Not
that.
his political predispositions.
I accept
We're not interested in that. It's his officials who are employed by the state
I accept that.
who are going to be carrying out the day-to-day decisions, or at least make day-to-day decisions.
And
he throws his hands up in the air in this matter because he has taken a political decision not to enter the fray.
If that's what you're putting to me, Justice,
Yes.
I would have a different intake, but I mean, I don't want to
But
waste.
what is his decision otherwise? Because he's made to assist this court legally.
Yes,
Everybody else has done that.
I mean, he has no submissions. And he doesn't have submissions other than those things that arise from the court. It's very clear.
But he's got the arguments.
No.
The arguments are set up in the
Ah, but-
argument which he has. He's got the papers which the parties have filed
Then-
that sets up their position.
I mean, I'm not arguing more with you than I thought. I mean, I don't know what you want me to do between now. I can't make an affidavit on the merits between now and when Mr. Oppenheimer finishes. Obviously, I can't do. And it'd be unfair to the others anyway. I mean, there cannot be no unfairness to anybody. The only question is, he's here, I'm here. If the court doesn't have questions to ask, then I will have nothing. And not a political decision, that's his decision. And I've advised him, in his affidavit, he put Darwood in there, and I was involved in how that happened. All I'm trying to explain is what the minister's stance is, bearing in mind, for example, Prince 3. And it might well be unfair to criticize him when the binding authority is what I say it is. The others might say it's different.
Well, you heard what the courts.
As it is.
Some of our views are that your client, as the minister in the executive responsible for this legislation, was required to come and assist the court on the legal issues. You've been present to answer questions that you may or may not have doesn't identify for that. And they would be entitled to be critical of your client in not having been of assistance to the court. The applicants would like to know what your client's position is. I suspect the amicus or amici would like to know what your client's position is. Client's a minister, has executive responsibility and authority. And he comes to this court and he says, you ask us questions and then I'll decide, or I'm available to answer.
Yep, so he's stressing the court out because this thing is lacking. We need the guy who's in charge of the act to say something. So why has he done this? Why not file an affidavit to oppose? Well, let's go to the Constitution. So remember that he's a Minister of Public Works in Ramaphosa's cabinet. The Ramaphosa who signed expropriation without talking to him and just went on in a way that sort of dared the DA to leave so that the ANC can blame them for bringing instability, or stay and get humiliated. And so he's throwing some humiliation back at Ramaphosa. So remember, this is how we are structured as a country. The executive authority of the republic is vested in the president, right? So all executive authority in the republic sits on Ramaphosa or whoever the president is. The president exercises that authority, that executive authority, together with the other members of the cabinet. And how does he do this? The president appoints deputy ministers, and assigns their powers and functions and may dismiss them. It's not just a department of public works, it's a department led by the executive authority of the president, which is assigned to the specific minister. In other words, the minister is supposed to, in a way, do what the president would do. Otherwise, the president has to fire him. But now let's go to the cabinet. Members of the cabinet are accountable collectively, so cabinet as a collective, for the exercise of their powers and performance of their functions. And so members of the cabinet must act as a collective. Members of the cabinet may not act in any way that is inconsistent with their office. Now, what this is called generally, it's called cabinet solidarity. Cabinet is supposed to come together under the leadership of the president, take a decision, because everyone in cabinet carries executive authority given by the president, and if they're going across the executive authority, the president can fire them. Then what happens is, because you have cabinet solidarity, once cabinet makes a decision, a minister can't just go do their own thing, express their own opinion. And cabinet solidarity also means that whatever is discussed in cabinet, whether it's disagreements, they must be kept confidential, because otherwise you undermine the executive authority of the whole republic. So once you're in cabinet, you can no longer act like you're just a party member somewhere, because then it means you conflicted and you're undermining the executive authority of the republic. However, remember this, the president, when he signed expropriation, showed no cabinet solidarity, because cabinet solidarity would have had President Ramaphosa call the cabinet, debate until they agree that they're going to sign the expropriation, and then he signs. So he undermined cabinet solidarity, And so Dean Macpherson is sort of doing, I'll give as good as I get. And Ramaphosa didn't completely undermine cabinet solidarity. He had a right to sign it. But then Dean Macpherson is not completely undermining it. He's not opposing the act. He's not helping. He's not working against. He's just there going, I don't know, if you have questions, I mean, I'm happy to go with whatever the court does. And so, of course, that gives a bit more weight to the DA because they don't have a cabinet voice opposing them. So he's fighting in the best way that you can when you are under the regime of cabinet solidarity. And so that's why we have the for, we have the against, and we have the neutral guy who actually is supposed to be fighting the hardest because the presidency doesn't run expropriation or public works. Those powers have been assigned down to public works, and public works is on some, no, I'm helping, my lord. If you need if you need anything, I'm here. I mean, it's not like I was told when this thing was signed, so maybe I haven't thought deeply about it, I mean, it was signed in my absence. Now I must come in and defend it? No, I mean, I've said I'll abide, man. And so there we go. The GNU has introduced new dynamics in South Africa. All other presidents had full control of their cabinet because they were part of the same party. And so cabinet solidarity was obvious. And if someone broke it, even if the president doesn't fire them, the party could discipline them. But what happens when the president knows he's in power because he's got 20% votes from the DA, but he undermined it when he signed the act for his other political reasons? So cabinet is also playing internal politics and not just national politics. So this is very interesting. It's going to be interesting as we go on because we'll keep seeing how does this new regime of ANC not having majority really look like as far as governance is concerned when a DA minister is required by his cabinet position to oppose the DA, and of course he's not going to do that. So he's like, no, I'm here. Ask me questions, I'll answer. And so expropriation is going to be debated and fought and argued for quite a while. It's probably going to take us 3 to 5 years to finally take it all the way up to constitutional court. And we don't know how it's all going to turn out. But this is an interesting debate in the country because you have two parties. The ones are making legal arguments, DA, AfriForum, Free Market Foundation, and all of them. They're making legal arguments and they're saying property rights are important. Then you have those who are against, like the EFF and AFRA and all of them. And they're pushing that it's in the public interest for the sake of land reform. Now, I want to just show you a couple of things. This is a judgment in the Constitutional Court from 2019 against the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. This is what the judgment said. The applicants, 25 years into our democracy, still have no secure tenure, even though the law was there and it promised them this more than 20 years ago. The judges are really throwing tantrums and saying, why is this department not giving the land to the black people under 100% black government with complete power? At number 41, the judges say, in this, the Department of Land Reform has jeopardized not only the rights of land claimants, but the constitutional security and future for all. South Africans have been waiting for more than 25 years for equitable land reform. The department's failure to practically manage and hurry up, expedite land reform measures in accordance with the constitutional and statutory promises. The constitution was there, the law was there to give land to the previously dispossessed, has profoundly caused people to be angry and bitter when we debate land reform. What are the judges saying? It's the department's failure. And then they make it clear, it is not the Constitution's fault. It is not the courts. It is not the lack of laws of the country that are at fault on this. It is the institutional capacity of the department to do what the law and the Constitution requires of it that lies at the heart of this colossal crisis. So people have not gotten land because the department has just never planned to give it to them, because it just failed for 25 years. He says the performance of the department in response to the increasingly focused pressures the applicants apply. These are the people who applied for land because they qualified. It was paid for, it was run, the judges have stamped, everything's in place. All you need now is the department to say, come get your land, come get your title deed. Never happened. It has done this each time with promises of better performance. This time it would get things right, but it never did. It has been a classic case of more same, more same. The very course of this court case has shown that the department was just unable, and the judge feels, man, this heavy language is slowing me down. So the judges say, in colloquial but apposite terms, to get its act together. The department was just not able over decades to get its act together. Why has land reform been a problem? Because the ANC-led Department of Land Reform over 25 years, we go back to Mbeki, to Zuma, to Ramaphosa, to Motlanthe. In 2019, no ANC president has managed to get the Department of Land Reform to hand over land to black people who deserved it. It was signed off. And the judges say it's not the Constitution, it's not the courts, it's not the laws. You just never got your act together. Failure after failure, promise after promise. We'll do it better, we'll do it better. More same, more same, more same. And people never got land. Why is it that most people who support expropriation without compensation seem to think that the problem is someone else besides the people in charge of passing land? Instead of fixing the failing department, they changed the story so they could keep the promise alive. And maybe you don't trust constitutional court judges. Well, you can read it for yourself in the Soft Life up here. Let's hear from Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe in his 2017 panel report, 2 years before that court judgment. He says people expressed a deep sense of betrayal by government officials and politicians. Put it clearer, and ANC catered deployment government officials and ANC politicians. Many who put through land claims before 1998 have still not received land. Can you imagine your child who was born on the day after you put in a land claim has finished varsity and yet you qualified for that land. You raise them through primary school, high school, varsity, qualify, and you're waiting for something you applied and qualified for in 1997. Where's the land? Corruption was widespread, with land going to unknown people. The comrade that you give your form to gives that form to another comrade and they get the land. They've been using it for 20 years while you waiting for the form to be processed. Beneficiaries, the ones who did get the land, got no title deed, no ownership, no rights at all. Politicians had more to gain by promising land than giving land. My biblical reaction. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. In other words, when we looked at ourselves, we saw ourselves as being small. But then they say, and they saw us as being small. And you realize they don't say they told us we were small. They say, yeah, that's how you see us. You see us as not good enough. The problem I have with a lot of the people who are fighting for the expropriation, the ultimate problem, the message that they are passing is this. If a black person is in charge of something for 30 years and nothing happens, it can't be the black person's fault, because black people are just grasshoppers. They cannot take responsibility for messing up, and so they putting a message in our minds, in our hearts, that say, if things don't work for you, it can never be a black person's fault, because black people are just grasshoppers. We're just grasshoppers. We can be in charge of a department for 30 years, and if we don't deliver, it's not our fault. We're just grasshoppers. And then what do these people put in the mind of the black child? Because they think you are grasshoppers. They don't want to share the land. Now take it without expropriation. Now mess up the whole economy because they must give it. We must take it from them. Why are you not dealing with black politicians like they actually matter? Like they actually deserve to be held accountable? Why do you not think the ANC should have fixed the land thing over 25 years? Do you not believe black people are good enough to fix something? Do you not believe black people are good enough to sort out their mess? Do you not believe black people can get their act together? Why do you need to support expropriation without compensation? No, because the only reason why the land is not sorted, it has to be white people because they are greater than us. No, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Kgalema Motlanthe says ANC refused to give land to people. The Constitutional Court said in 2019, there's no problem with the law. Yet, you will run with the person who was best friends with the minister in the department who was robbing our grandfathers, our grandmothers who died never getting that land. And yet you want to be angry with someone else that you have been taught to see as bigger because you are just a grasshopper. I refuse to fall for this garbage. Comrades are destroying our minds. Comrades are destroying our self-esteem. Comrades are destroying our ability to ever believe because they're getting us used to this. If you believe that the ANC can fail forever and you still get to blame some white guy, it means you can't take responsibility for yourself. And not to blame yourself, but just to take responsibility and believe if I'm in charge of something, I can make it happen. If it's my life and I mess it up for 6 months, I can work on it and eventually I'll succeed. Because the ANC has not had 6 months, they've not had 5 years. The courts are complaining about 25 years. Kgalema Motlanthe is complaining about 25 years. So stop talking about why land inequalities because of apartheid. No. That's that grasshopper nonsense they're teaching us to have. Why do you think if a black person is in charge for 30 years, you get to blame the white person who died 20 years ago? What are you saying? You're saying black people, we are just grasshoppers. And our problem is they see us as grasshoppers too. Our problem is racism, it's colonialism, it's apartheid. No. Guys, let's be honest, my people. Our problem is us. We have allowed ourselves to have grasshopper standards. We allow thieves to lead us. And they've taught us we must be angry, we must be envious, we must be consistent victims, consistent grasshoppers, and then blame everybody else for victimizing us. And this is what I hate about comrades. They keep land from you, you don't fight them because you don't believe that black people are worth being fought, worth being asked to take accountability. No. The only people who are human enough to be blamed are white people because they see us as grasshoppers. And I fell for it at some point being younger until I snapped out of it, teaching us to project a small concept of ourselves on everybody else and call it racism, colonialism, and all of that. Did colonialism happen? Yes. Did apartheid happen? Yes. But did we happen? Yes. Are we human? Yes. Are we able to get things done? Yes. And when a black leader fails, do they deserve to be held accountable? Yes. Are they a grasshopper, so you must turn around and find the nearest white person because only they have value enough to be fought? No. And this is the damage of comrade politics. It is evil, it is wicked, it is the worst hatred of black people you will find on earth. And that's why what we are faced with between now and 2029 is to put South Africa on a path to prosperity by helping our people get out of the low self-esteem that comes from who we thought were our leaders trying to build us up, only to realize they need us small so they stay relevant. They need us feeling like grasshoppers, believing everybody else sees us as grasshoppers so that they get paid from that thought process. But we're on a path to prosperity, and I'm inviting you to make sure you're part of this on the 1st of September so we turn a new leaf, and I'm going to show you exactly how do we snap South Africans out of this mindset, and you get to be the first 1,000 who joins this and gets to be part of doing something awesome without having to argue with people, argue them out of that thought process, without having to organize a rally and try convince anyone, without having to fight people on social media to say, snap out of it, here are the facts, here are the true facts, here are the numbers, here are the percentages. Without having to do that, you get to be one of the first 1,000 that will grow into a tsunami in 2029 and get us on the path to prosperity, and no, not a political party. So if you click that link. It's also at the bottom. You'll go here, put in your email so that we keep you posted and you can join. What we're going to share there is really powerful. You're going to see how do you get someone out of a mindset that's got them on lockdown. How can we get enough South Africans to really shift the needle to come out of this grasshopper mentality that comrades have made sure they trick us to think in this way, always see ourselves as grasshoppers and even see them as grasshoppers, meaning they can never be held accountable because shame, it's just a poor grasshopper who happens to be a president. Shame, it's just a poor grasshopper who happens to be a minister. Shame, it's just a poor grasshopper who happens to be in charge of land reform. And if they don't deliver for a long time, shame, it's a poor grasshopper. All right, let's turn to a real giant. We need expropriation now without compensation so these white people can give us We'll show you how do you snatch someone out of that. And so I want you to be one of the first 1,000 if you up for that. But otherwise, no man can serve two masters. Otherwise, he'll love the one and hate the other, or he'll despise the one and honor the other. You can't serve God and Karl Marx. Karl Marx says, if you're black, see yourself as a grasshopper. Your history is not on the calendar, but it's your identity. And therefore, you're a grasshopper forever because your great-grandfather was colonized, because your grandfather lived under apartheid laws. And so you are now a permanent grasshopper. But God says, no, you're not. You're made in the image of God. You carry immense potential. You can do all things through Christ. So you can't serve both. Let's make history together. See you up here and in the comments below. Cheers.